talk a little bit about stubbornness. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who struggles with stubbornness at times. I think we all kind of can get hard and then get soft, and we can all be very inflexible and we can be very flexible. And it's just a combination of ways that we can be in the world. And one of the things that I've experienced a lot in my nursing job is to be witness to how this shows up with people as they are struggling with illness and death and dying. And when we learn how to bend, there's a grace to a sense of acceptance and being able to kind of go with the flow. And it's not easy to come to this for many of us, especially if we struggle with stubbornness throughout our lives. So I can be a pretty stubborn person sometimes, and the our greatest strength is our worst weakness. So sometimes stubbornness can show itself up as discipline or stick to itness or perseverance, which are good qualities. But then when it kind of lands itself into banging your head against a wall, that's not necessarily such a good quality. And same with being flexible, that sometimes being overly flexible, kind of like the wallflower that doesn't really have an opinion about anything, can be the downside of that, strength and weakness aspect of your personality. So, where do you land on this spectrum? And if stubbornness, we all can be stubborn. And if it gets in your way, try to think about, what are you trying to preserve by being stubborn? What are you holding on to, and why does it matter to you? So close your eyes for a moment and think about a situation recently where you've kind of been stubborn, where you feel like, no, I'm right, this is how it should be done, or whatever the circumstance is. And contemplate, what is it about your stubbornness that is protective? What are you trying to guard and protect within you? What are you trying not to let go of? And if you take that to the extreme, if you keep being stubborn, what is it that might break? Because if we keep hitting something against a hard surface, eventually it will break. So if you take that stubbornness quality in you, at what point does it turn into something that breaks? And then similarly, if you were able to let go a little bit, if you were able to dissolve a little bit of your hardness around something, what would open up? What would be available? And also, what would you lose? Being flexible, there's usually something lost, or at least a perception that something will be lost when we let go of our stubbornness. So this brings me into our practice, this practice of yielding, the concept that we often try to emulate in our soma, in our body, this ability to both be firm but bendy, that we have the ability to be like the reeds that blow. So one more time, close your eyes and imagine a beautiful field of grass that is swaying in the changing breezes, and the ripple that can go through that field. And even these small, thin roots, it's not like big tree roots, grass roots, hold firm. That there's a yielding and a steadiness and a grounding that comes from steady roots. And the grasses can sway and move and be flexible with the changing winds around them. And then move this into something even more profound, which is like a tree on the beach in a hurricane. And how even then these trees can bend and receive the deep wind without breaking. Sometimes they get uprooted, but sometimes they stay grounded. So, how do we know when to stand firm and when to bend. And can you let your practice teach you both simultaneously? So even here, ground through your pelvis and feel the rise through your spine. Get to know the feeling of yielding, that it's not a propping up against, which would be stubbornness, and it's not a collapse and falling, which would be, being too flexible, too amiable to the constant change. Find something right in the middle with your body, where you have deep roots, but you also have this capacity to move and sway, redirect, change, adapt. Start to breathe. Let your breath flow deeply. And just notice what you're needing to adapt to today. How is your energy? What do you have on the agenda? How can you move through this day with a sense of being those grasses in the field? Let's place our hands together at our heart. And bow in, see if you can find that sense of surrender, even if it's just the quality of your mind dropping into a state of ease. Offer an intention here. Where do you need to soften and melt? Where do you need to get more firm and strong? And let's relax the hands and find our way onto our back. So as you come onto your mat and into your practice, see if you can keep this at the foremost of what we do often. This practice of yielding, this sense of balancing effort and ease. Meld the two into one as best as you can through your practice. All right, so open your body up, stretch your limbs, reach your arms overhead. Stretch the right side, stretch the left side, maybe yawn, maybe squeeze, maybe hold the breath for a moment. Just kind of find what's naturally coming for your body, what kind of movement is naturally coming. All right, and then bring the knees into the chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. And notice when you sway, does just your pelvis sway, your knees, or do you let all the way to your head sway? Kind of what's your pattern of rocking, what feels good. All right, and then let's open the knees up and bring them back together again. Kind of swaying outward and inward. Discover your breath. Right knee and left leg long on the floor, and move your ankle and foot around as best as you can. Breathing deeply. And then switch. Left knee and right leg long on the floor. Feel the movement. Move your ankles around, move your shins, your calves. See if you can get your feet to invert and evert and wiggle your toes. All right, great. And then put your 2 feet on the ground, feet hip width apart or maybe wider. See what feels good. And just start to sway from side to side. And you can get the upper body involved as your knees go left. Maybe the right arm stretches overhead or out. You can turn your head in opposition. So just start to find some movement. Maybe you haven't moved much yet today. So if that's the case, be very gentle. Maybe you've already, done a lot of moving today. Just see where you are. All right, let's stretch and broaden and widen out. Starfish your body, wiggle your fingers and toes. And while you're here, give a good squeeze to every muscle you can find in your body. Just waking up your nervous system. And then relax and melt. Next inhale, just reach from center out to edges, and then bring your knees into your chest. Pick your head up, give a good squeeze here, all your breath out, and then squeeze, maybe even your face, and and then relax. One more starfish. Spread your limbs wide. Try not to just feel that you're pulling from hips and shoulders out to limbs, but you're reaching from center out to limbs. And on your next exhale, draw in to the center. Roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. Okay, so let's find our way onto all fours and just practice yielding here before we go anywhere else. Drop some weight into the right hand and knee. Drop some weight into the left hand and knee. Get friendly with the floor below you. Get friendly with the way your joints absorb the pressure. See if you can yield and then push and then reach. So, the yield always precedes the push. If you're always just pushing, then this is that act of stubbornness that can show up in our bodies so easily. Notice the breath. See if you can melt some of your internal icebergs with your breathing, with your yielding. And then let's start to flow through some cat-cows. You can arch and round the spine, moving with your breath. And then feel free to move the body around any way you want. Maybe you want to sway your hips. Maybe you want to move your head around. Just follow the impulses that your body gives you. All the while keeping the elbows a little soft, the wrists a little stable so that you have that sense of being able to yield into your hands. Once you're ready, curl your toes under and stretch back towards child's pose with your toes curled under. You may not go very far, and that's okay. See what it feels like to touch your inner ankles and just stretch open the bottom of your feet. Imagine you have eyes on the bottom of your feet looking out behind you. Spread your toes and then release that and just smack your feet on the floor a little bit. Wake up the tops of your feet. And now you get to rest back into a regular child's pose. So take your hips back toward the heels, relax, soften. Walk the hands as far out as your body says is a good place to go. How are your shoulders? Steady your breath. And then when you're ready, walk your hands over to one side of your mat or the other. See if you can come into that state of expanse. Relax the neck. Breathe into the side body. See if you can awaken the whole side of your body, not just your rib cage, but fingers to pelvis. And then come back over to the other side. Awaken your breath here. Relax your neck. And then come back to center. All right, so feel any movement that you want to feel. And then find your way up to dog pose as you're ready. So stretch out through your hands, curl your toes under, and lengthen through your spine. Root into your hands. So now have a moment once you get situated here to feel into the yielding in this posture. Maybe yield into the right hand and right foot and then swing your weight over to the other side. Notice the knees and the elbow joints. See if you can keep those middle joints a little receptive, receiving the yield, receiving the push. And then balance and come into the weight of the hands and then rock into the weight of the feet. Just kind of finding a little bit of both. Find the hands well. So root into the index finger mound. See if you can ground through the full palm. Reach the heart up toward the pelvis. And then once you're here, once you have that sense of yielding, feel free to move. Do you want to bounce? Do you want to pedal your feet? Do you want to sway your hips? As you start to move your ribs or your spine or your hips or your legs or your head, see if you can stay grounded through your hands where we're still feeling that yield, push, and reach. How's your breath? All right, walk your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees. Feel free to shake your hips left and right. Relax your head. Soothe things out. Inhale for a halfway lift. The spine grows longer. The sit bones lift. The legs are straighter. Exhale and melt. Drop your hips down. Rise up. Feel a sense of expanse. Now, if you are dizzy whenever you come up, then by all means, just hang out there and squeeze to the midline for a little bit. Otherwise, let's go ahead and find our way into some space. Open the chest, reach out through the arms if it feels good, and then press your hands away. Feel that one ear, it doesn't matter which one, lift it up, and then lift the other ear up. Just get a little bit of awakening in the hands, in the wrists, and the arms. And then release. Shake out your hands. Find your breath. All right, now take your fists. We're going to wake up a little bit through your chest. You can use the thumb side of your fist or open cupped hands. Whatever feels good. Make sure you get your bottom ribs too. And you can take your fists into the back of your ribs and the sides. Just kind of feel what, you don't have to smack yourself hard. Just to let your body, loosen up on the inside, just to get your lungs to have a little bit of massage. All right, and then shake things out. We're going to do this with our whole body. So I want you to kind of smack through your legs. You can just, very gently. Anything big. Try to get everywhere you can reach in your body. All right, don't forget your face. All right, stand for a moment. Just feel the body tingle. Okay, so here you are in your body. Feel the grounding. Yield your weight into your feet. See if you can yield and then push off a little bit to feel that rebound through your spine. Try not to lock anything out. Part of this sense of ease comes from unlocking joints. Finding breath. You can have stability. You can have a strong sense of stability without locking yourself up into a cage. This is the difference between stubbornness and sturdiness. Go ahead and reach the arms up. Expand wide. Exhale, bend your knees and lower yourself down. Inhale for a halfway lift. Get the spine to grow. Exhale and melt to float back down. Let's step the left foot back, right foot comes forward, finding our warming lunge. Let's start to move once we get there. Okay, so you can begin to straighten and bend your knee. Find your breath pattern. So sink into the breath as best as you can. Every time you feel your breath move, see if you can match it with some yielding. So drop into your feet, push off. So we have the yield and then the push. It doesn't matter where you breathe, just stay inside the pattern, the rhythm of your breath. Okay, go ahead and walk the back foot forward, fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. And let's stretch back with the other leg. Left foot is now forward, right foot is back. Grounding yourself, feeling that sense of space. Lengthen through your crown. And then let's start to move when you're ready. Once you get situated, bend and straighten your front knee. Stay inside your breathing. So try your best not to hold your breath at all. So notice if you're a top of the breath holder, like after you inhale, or if you're a bottom of the breath holder after you exhale, there's definitely a little pause there, but there's not a gripping or a holding. See if you can keep flow happening. All right, put your hands down onto the ground, back to dog pose, extending through your spine here. Isometrically drag your feet apart from each other. Wake up the outer line of your legs. Deep breath in and out. Come forward into a plank when you're ready. Hold yourself steady. Notice if all your weight goes into the outer wrists. Stay firm in the index fingers as best as you can. Integrate through the center line of the body. Find your breath. All right, let's come down. Rest on your belly. Roll the shoulders a few times. Just feel into that mobility of your shoulder blades. And rise up to cobra pose when you're ready. Elbows can stay very bent. Release and melt back down. Rise up. Don't stay for too long. Let the breath continue moving. Try not to hold the breath. This last one, lift the hands off the floor. Just hover, get some strength in the back of the body. Keep breathing. Stabilize with your core. And then exhale and melt. Come up onto your hands and your knees. Swish and sway. You can always come onto fists if your hands are needing a little bit of a break, or you can put forearms on blocks, whatever feels good. Take your right leg straight back behind you and your left arm out in front of you for some spinal stabilizing. So integrate the front and back body. Feel your glutes kick in. Can you feel that sense of sturdiness? Can you keep breathing to give life and breath and flow to the sturdiness within you? And open the leg out to the side, hand comes out to the side, still integrating through your core. Find the breath. Back to center. Hand and knee coming down onto the ground. Change sides. Reach that left leg and the right arm. So when you're here, how do you still feel yield? Can you feel that the stability that's arising within you when you turn on a lot of light bulbs in your center body? Can the stability be inside breath? So try not to lock yourself into place. Let's open out to the side when you're ready. Toes are pointing down, outer hip is engaged. Let your arm cantilever the weight of your body. Breathing. Lots of core. And then coming back to center, place that hand down onto the ground and find dog pose. Extending through your heart, lifting it to the pelvis. Try not to only lift your heart to the hips. See what it feels like to yield your hands and then reach from your hands to your pelvis. Try to have both happening simultaneously. It's not just yield, push, yield, push. Can you do yielding and pushing at the same time? Relax your neck, stay in the breath. When you're ready, right leg lifting up to the sky. Feel the glutes turn on. Exhale, bring your foot forward to a lunge. Take your time to get there. Rise up, crescent lunge when you're ready. Okay, the arms come up or out or anywhere that serves. Soften the shoulders down, open your breath. Notice your feet. Can you ground into them? Are both knees able to receive a little bit? How about your pelvis and your low back? Can you receive your breath there? Can you receive the yield and push from your feet into your back? Up through your spine. All right, and then reach forward. Palms are facing the floor now. Triceps engaged, back body strong. Feel the crown stretch to the back foot. Okay, place your hands down onto the ground and hop up onto your right foot and just feel your standing leg. Square the hips here, stretch your foot back. Start to wake up the outer hip muscles of your right leg. Just see what you're feeling, what's holding you here. When you're ready, keep the leg in the air behind you so we're not tucking it like we normally do. Bend your knee that you're standing on and feel the crown stretch to the back foot in the air. And then slowly push up to a straight leg and put that right foot and left foot next to each other. Fold in half. Relax your neck. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale, half splits on the other side. So lift that leg straight up in the air. Now we're standing on our right leg. Okay, feel the right hip lift. I'm sorry, your left leg, sorry about that. Standing on your left leg, lift the left hip. See if you can stretch the right leg in the air, extend the spine. When you're ready, start to bend your knee a little bit that you're standing on. Keep that leg in the air, stretch it back. Find the work of your standing leg, and then see what you can do to yield into the ground and then push off to straighten your leg. A little yield, a little push. Okay, finding your breath, step all the way back. A lunge with your left foot forward. Adjust your feet to be just in the sweet spot for you. And then find your way up to crescent lunge. Arms finding their way to wherever your body is best breathed. So if you climb up here and your shoulders hurt or you feel it trapped,
just have a little more space. Just feel into what's giving you a sense of ease in the body. Then ground into your stability. The feet are steady and yielding. Anywhere you're touching the earth is your spot to yield. And then push, yield and push simultaneously. Can you feel the yield, the push, and then the reach through the spine? All right, lean forward. Palms are down facing the floor. Triceps engaged. Find the breath. And then place your hands down onto the ground. Lift that leg straight up in the air, three-legged dog. Engage your glutes, find the breath. Put your foot back down onto the ground. Walk your feet forward, come into Uttanasana. Relax your back, relax your head, melt a bit. Inhale for a halfway lift. And then exhale and relax again. Come up to chair pose. So you can have your legs together or your legs apart. You can have a block between your thighs if you prefer that. So however you like to be in this posture, it's your choice. Okay. Drop some weight. Drop some weight. We're all going to do a little variation of this in a moment, but first, just find your steadiness. Yield and push and reach. What can soften? If you are an overstriver, if you get real locked and stubborn sometimes, where can be melty in this posture? What does not need to support you? What is safe to let go? All right, and then we're going to, if we have the block, that's great. If you have your legs together, you're going to take your feet apart. You do not need a block, but you can stick a block there. Go ahead and squat a little lower. Put your hands on your outer knees. So we're dropping our hips. Lengthen through your spine. Press your knees into your outer knees into your hands. Root into the big toenails of the inner feet. See if you can stay grounded and not lean into the outer feet. Then move your knees into your hands. Light up those muscles in your hips. And then release and rise all the way up. Lengthening through the spine. If you're dizzy, just squeeze to the midline. Find your breath. Step back to dog pose. Long breaths here. Take your feet wide on the mat. Turn your toes in a little bit so you feel that giant amount of space in your belly and pelvis. Breathe into all the room. And then you can keep your feet there if you want, or put them back to a hip width apart distance and find your way to a plank. So you do you. You can always put your knees down too if you need a little more support. So in a pose like this, we can meet up with our stubbornness, our sense of grr, like not letting go. So where do you find the little iceberg to melt in your body without losing stability? What can soften here? Where's your yield? And then put your knees down if you want. Come all the way to the floor. Curl your toes under, lift your legs, take them wider. Arms either back or out in front of you or to the sides, and lift everything up. Back body strong. Breathing well, neck is long. Exhale and melt to fold. Come up onto your hands and your knees again and just move things around. Move things around. Back to child's pose. Settle your hips toward your heels. Breathing well for a moment. Just feel the back body breathe. See if you can travel along the spine with your breath. If you're struggling with stubbornness in some area of your life, let your practice feed you this capacity to soften, to broaden your view, to have a bigger picture, a bigger sensation in the body, bigger capacity to yield, so that if you hold to a viewpoint, you know that you can do so with a sense of broadness and acceptance and flow instead of just rigid. Okay, so what are you holding? What are you afraid to release? What would happen if you let something go? Let's go ahead and find our way. You can come to dog pose or you can just come to stand. Either way, we're going to eventually all find our way to standing up. Drop weight into your right foot. We're going to come into tree pose, but we're going to do this twice. Start with your toes on the floor, so we're touching the ground. Okay. So notice if your hips wants to hike out to the side. See if you can keep that sense of grounding with your hip, and then open up your knee to wherever your body is allowing you to go. Start with your hands together. Relax something. So see if you can take some ease across your shoulders, finding your breath. And then when you're ready, lift your arms up to the sky. We're still having our toes on the floor, so balance is a little bit easier here. Open things up. Can you find a sense of steadiness, stability, and freedom? Where could be freer? How about your breath? And then release and place that foot down onto the ground and open up the other side. So once again, try to keep the hip in instead of letting it hike out to the side. See if you can unlock your knee. This is a really important aspect of balancing, is to not lock our joints. Feel the roots. So drop into those, that sense of weight, the roots of your grasses. Okay. And then root to rise. So see if you can feel the yield. And then a little push that reaches up through your spine. Bring your arms wherever your body is going to comfortably go. Feel the work of opening up your outer hip on this left or right leg. Stay grounded. Drop your shoulders. All right. And then release your body down. We're going to wait. We're going to repeat that later, not now. Everybody stretch your legs out to the sides to the long edge of your mat. Okay, so go ahead and bend your front knee, and feel free if you need a little bit of mobility, if you need a little, loosening of the joint, go ahead and find that, and we'll find our way into Virabhadrasana too. So as you find this posture, remember, you can be up here with just a little bit of bend in your knee. You do not have to be in this deep, deep lunge. You can be anywhere along that pathway that gives you the sense that you're not collapsing, that you have the ability to yield and to push and let that push reach through your body. Gaze out over your fingers. Soften your shoulders. See if you can let anything, like imagine because your palms are open, anything you were just holding in your hand has just dropped. That there's nothing, no longer do you have to hold on to anything. There's nothing to hold on to. Can you yield into your back foot a little bit more? Is your back knee soft enough to bend so that you can yield and then push off that foot? Okay, let's find a reverse warrior, arm coming up in the air. And then straighten your leg for a moment. Triangle pose. Don't feel like you have to go super far in this posture. You can stay pretty high. A lot of times going very deep in this pose, we end up just kind of overtaxing our hamstrings and not getting a lot of benefit from the pose as far as stability goes. So root into both feet. See if you can stay grounded in the back foot. Find your roots and then reach from that place all the way through to your crown. And notice if you go low, do you lose a little bit of that stability of your back leg? So just find the sweet spot for you. And then when you're ready, bend your knee again. You can keep your hand on the block or you can put your elbow on your knee and stretch into part of Kanasana. These poses, there's so much of our bread and butter of yoga. They give us stamina. They give us stability. See if they can give you stability without giving you stubbornness. So what is soft? Where can you melt the icebergs a little bit? How about your neck, your shoulders, your ears? Can you get your energy to drop down into both feet? Yield. Give some softness into the earth like you're melting into soft earth. Yield and then push off from that yield to find the space and strength in your body. All right, and then come back up. Turn your feet and heel toe your feet in a little bit before we do the second side. Just come to stand in Tadasana. Close your eyes for a moment. Maybe you like your feet a little wider, a little closer. Just find what gives you a sense of stability. And we're going to rock up onto our toes. Feel your core kick into gear. And then rock back into your heels. And you can move your arms a little bit if you want. Just kind of finding your balance points. Whoa. And if you go past your balance point, that's okay. You just wobble a little bit on your feet. All is well. And then ground again. All four corners of each foot. Root. Become the grass. Become the roots. Become the blades. Become the wind that moves the blades. Soften your knees. Feel the difference. Rigid your body. Find rigidity. Prop yourself up, 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 trying to reach to the sky. Notice your breath. Notice everything that is immobile, and then soften a little bit. Not so much where you collapse, but just find that middle ground between a collapse and a prop. Find your breath, bottomless breath. Find the loose joints. The knees are free. When we have free joints and mobile breath, we are available. Any wind that comes, we can flow with. All right, take your legs wide again and turn your feet out to the other side. Okay, once again, if you need a little bit of mobility, if a hip or a knee or a foot or whatever's working or maybe not working so well, if you need to kind of ease into the posture, you do that. And remember, if your hips are a little, revolting of the pose, they're like saying no, turn the pelvis a little bit. See what it feels like to give a little bit more freedom into that hip joint. Bring your arms out when you're ready. Maybe your arms come into a different position. Maybe something different is available to you today. Find the breath. Whatever you're doing, whether your palms are up or your palms are down, let go. You do not have to hold anything with your hands. Release the shoulders. Find the breath. Notice the back knee. Do you push it into hyperextension? Can you soften? And when you soften the back knee, can you yield your foot and then push off to reach through your spine? Keep the soft joints. When you're ready, find your way into a reverse warrior. Take your time. And then when you're ready, you can straighten your leg and find triangle pose. Open the chest. Any height underneath your hand, so you can put your hand on your leg or your hand on a block. If your hand, well, either way, whatever your hand is resting on, it's light, so we're not falling, we're not dropping our weight down, we're lifting our weight, we're holding our weight by our legs instead of leaning our weight into our hand. Okay. Drop into the yield, yielding the legs. Anywhere you're touching the earth, you can yield. Find even your hand can yield a little bit. You can feel the difference between bearing all your weight in your hand and yielding your hand into the leg or the block. Relax the shoulders. Okay. And then come on up. Find Kanasana. So you bend your knee. Go ahead and let the elbow rest on the knee or the hand on the block. Stretch your arm to where it's comfortable. Okay, so that could mean that your hand stays on your hip. Could mean that you're up a little higher in your lunge. It could mean that you're pretty deep in your lunge. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're not collapsing. See, and you're not propping. You're right in the middle. You're yielding. Yield both feet. Push off both feet. Unlock that back knee. Extend through the crown. Find your breath. Shoulders are soft. Hands hold nothing. All right, go ahead and find your way back. Okay, Turn back to the long edge of your mat, 2 feet facing forward. Take your thigh bones back. Bring your hands out in front of you like dog pose or right underneath you, maybe on blocks. See what feels best to your body. Heads of the femur bones rooting back, but the shin bones slide forward a little bit so that our knees are not caught. We have soft joints. Spread out the bones of your feet. Yield your feet, push off. Turn back to the front of your mat for dog pose. Enjoy the symmetry and balance. Feel free to bend your knees a lot to soothe your back if you need soothing. Soften your elbows too. Root into your hands. Yield, push, and reach. All right, come forward into a stabilizing plank. If your shoulders are not happy with planks, then you put your knees down. Okay, find your breath. Rooting 4 corners of your hands. Feel the weight of your feet all through your toes or toe mounds. And then find your way to the ground. Lay on your belly. Arms are back behind you. Legs are close. Inhale. Rise up. Exhale and melt. Come up onto all fours. Take your knees pretty wide to the edges of the mat. Anterior tilt the pelvis and stretch back into child's pose. A really deep hip flexion. Breathe into the spine. All right, let's come back onto all fours. You can come up to dog pose and then find your way to standing, or you can just come up to standing. So however you like to get up there. Once again, finding Tadasana. Okay. Unlock your knees. Have almost an unnatural little bend in your knee, like you're about to kind of start sitting down, but just don't. Okay. So this is kind of an extreme bend for what we normally feel, but let it drop weight into your feet. Drop weight into your right foot and hover your left knee off the ground. You can always take your hands out to the sides if you need more balance. And then without straightening your knee, drop weight into the other knee and lift over your right foot off the floor. Okay, feel free to use your arms however you need. The spine is long. Okay, one more time, reaching into your right foot. Now we're going to yield into the foot and then reach to lift up to a stork, lifting your knee up in the air. And then do it a couple of times. Yield, push, and reach. And your bend may not be very deep. You might just have like a little micro bend depending on, how your knee and your quads can handle this. Maybe you go pretty deep. And then rising up one more time. Yield, push, reach. Switch your weight over to the other side. Standing on your left foot, maybe your balance is a little less strong on this side. So see what you're going to do. Bend your knee. Okay. Hover your foot. And then as you're ready, we're going to rise up. Try not to lock your leg. Lift your knee in the air, lift your crown, go back and forth. Bending and then rising. So we're not just bending the knee and lifting. Root, yield, let the knee bend be about yielding and then pushing and reaching. How's your breath? All right, and then let's go ahead and put 2 feet down onto the ground. Pause here in Tadasana. Unlock your knees. Rise up, reaching the arms to the sky. And then trace down through the center. We're going to bear our weight into our right foot. Get your roots. Now it'll be the hurricane tree, so get some deeper roots. Feel that sense of bringing your leg a little higher up toward your thigh. Maybe it's not this high. Wherever you end up, try just not to have your heel pressing against your inner knee. And then bring your branches wide. Okay. Stabilize. So your hip is hugging in, your knee is soft. Remember that ability to bend. So yield and then push and reach. Yield, push, and reach. The whole while you're breathing. Soften the shoulders. Okay, and then drop that foot down. And feel free, you can move this pose around, and you can do whatever you want to loosen your body up in between. And then drop some weight again, finding that sense of your left foot, and your right foot is coming up now. Now, if you know that your balance is a little off, put your hand on a wall. Support yourself, okay? So find what's right for your body, okay? Arms can be out, arms can be up, hands can be at your heart. So try not to hike the hip out. See if you can keep grounding in, soften the knee that you're standing on. So notice the yield. See if you can find that sense of a yield, a push, and a reach through your spine. Stay inside your breath. Don't worry if you wobble or if you fall. This is a perfect place to detach from your stubbornness. Balance poses are great for kind of mirroring our stubbornness to us. And then relax your foot down onto the ground. Take a breath. If you lost your breath, chances are you were a little stubborn in there. So just stay inside the breath as we move to the next posture. Drop weight into your right foot again. We're going to move into figure four in a second, but first, just have your foot out in front of you. Externally rotate your leg and start to find a little bit of a knee bend. We're not hooking our foot yet. We will do that in a moment. Find the breath. So notice if your hips do weird things. See if you can stabilize. Yield, push, and reach up. Place that foot down onto the ground. Second side. Turn the hip out. Turn the knee out. Foot is in front of you. Unlock your standing knee. Unlock the hip. So hip in, knee soft. Start to bend. Yield. And then push. And just kind of find that little sequence of finding the two, and then see if you can bring them into the same action. Stay in the breath. And then yield, push, reach leg straight, knee up, foot down onto the ground. Pause in Tadasana and take everything out of your hands. Find your breath. Figure four, dropping into the weight of your right foot. Left foot is coming on top of your right thigh, right above your knee. The funky things happen with the pelvis in this pose. Draw your femur bones back and your sit bones wide. Feel that chair pose. Okay? Feel the chair pose. Wake up the body wherever you want to put the arms. Can you yield? Can you push? Can you reach? Can you do all that at the same time while breathing? Okay, and then come rising back up. 2 feet on the ground. If you need balance, hold on to something. Put your butt against a wall. There's always ways to support yourself. So if your balance makes the pose unavailable to you, seek some support so that you can feel into the actual posture. Second side. Okay, so notice if the hip wants to hike out. Draw it in, take your thigh bones back and your sit bones wide. Feel the length of the spine and the softness of your shoulders. Put your arms anywhere that serves your body. So it might be up, it might be out, it might be back, it might be hands to your heart. How's your breath? What can melt a little bit here? Where is the stability? Root to rise. Yield, push, and reach. Breathe. Unwind, arms up, legs wide, fold. Bend your knees, let your back relax. Deep breath in and out. Halfway lift, long spine. Step back, dog pose. Okay, finding your breathing body here. Inhaling. Exhaling. Yield like we did in the beginning. Yield maybe into your right side, maybe into your left side, maybe into your hands, maybe into your feet. Yield, push, and reach. All right, let's come down into child's pose. If you feel like moving through one more vinyasa to a plank, to a back bend, by all means, go for it. Otherwise, come to rest in child's pose. All right, as you're ready, flip over onto your back. Lay on your back for a moment, bend your knees, and just relax your spine. Deep breath, melt into the earth as you exhale. Whole back gets to yield now. Anything touching the floor gets to yield. Cross your right thigh over your left thigh and bring your knees toward your chest. Stretch the outer hips some. Feel the extension of the spine. Breathing well. Back of head, shoulders. Feel everywhere that's touching the floor. All right, and then go ahead and stretch your limbs wide to a starfish. And then bring your knees back, feet on the floor. Rest here for a moment. Okay, let's cross your left thigh over your right thigh. Draw the knees into the chest and lift them up. Okay, so we get the sense that the outer hips can stretch, the sit bones wide, and the spine is long. Relax your shoulders, even though you have to hold onto your legs. See if you can do so in the most relaxed fashion that you can. All right, put your feet back down onto the ground. One more time. Feel whatever's touching the floor. Feel your feet. Feel the backs of your arms. Feel your the back body, the back of your head. All right, let's lift the hips, scooch them over to the right, knees up, and drop them over to the left. Breathe your way here. Soften into the twist. All right, come back up. Scoot your hips over to the other side. Drop knees. Deep breaths. Melt what you can. If you find yourself being stubborn and you realize I need to broaden my perspective here for a moment and just see more, the best way is to breathe. The more you are in your breath, the more you are grounded in your body, the more capacity you have to expand your awareness, to expand your perceptions and your perspectives. Let's come back to center. Roll over onto your side, and we're going to, you can do this if you want. I give you a choice. I'm going to show you heart bench with low blocks. And then I'm going to put my legs into Supta Baddha Kanasana. You don't have to do this. If you want to do bridge pose with a block underneath your pelvis, you can do bridge pose with the block across your pelvis. You can be in heart bench with your blocks underneath you without your legs in Baddha Konasana. You can just straighten your legs or bend your knees, or you can even knock your knees. So just find a pathway. You can do leg up the wall pose if you prefer. Find something that's soothing to you, that's restorative to you. Any pose of your choosing, where you allow yourself to drop. We can drop everything we're holding. Okay, so the hands often are so representative of the tension that we can hold in our bodies. So if you are a fist clencher or a gripper, what can you do to soften your hands here? Whatever part of you is touching the ground or blocks, Let there be weight. Give yourself over to the yield. Can you still have, you don't have to have a push, but you can have a space. So maybe now yield and find space. Stay inside your breathing. Notice the rising tide of your chest and your belly as you breathe in, and the falling tide as you breathe out. Find an area of your body that can melt. See what you can do to surrender. Can you search for stability in a different way than stubbornness? Can you search for stability in finding freedom, ground, a sense of open awareness, endless possibilities? If you don't have your breath, it's really hard to find these things. All right, let's find Shavasana as you are ready. So there's no rush. If you are in a very happy place, you can stay. And if you'd like to transition at any moment to lying down on the ground, you can. Feel into your breath. Feel where you're touching the ground and let your body get a little heavier. Melt anything that's possible to melt. Start with your face, your skull. Let your hands be as relaxed as you can. and to deepen our breathing. Start to invite movement into the body. Eventually, maybe a big stretch to reinvigorate and awaken. Curl into a little ball and come onto your side. And as you're ready, you can find your way up to sit. Bring your palms together at your heart. Notice if you feel centered, grounded, a little more open. Melt again. And offer your practice outward and perhaps to the person in your life that kind of brings the biggest stubborn response within you. See if you can just melt your energy toward this person. Offer the energy of your practice to them. And then to whomever else you want to send your love and care. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.